How do I change my life? If there's something about my life I don't like, I want to change it. How do I do that? Well, there is a science of changing your life, and that's what we're talking about on this series of calls. In this particular call, we're talking about changing some of the underlying presuppositions that you look at your life through. When you change the lens through which you're looking at your life changes. So I sent you guys a message this morning. I'm not sure if you noticed it. Did you notice the NLP presuppositions?
I sure did.
So I thought
I
we
was
could
like,
talk
woohoo,
about.
this will be fun.
I thought we could talk about that in case you didn't have anything else you wanted to talk about. Um, did you get that, Greg?
I did not look at that. So
Well, I have. I can open it up on the computer here. So let me see if I can share my screen.
I consider these life hacks. I think they're fantastic.
Oh yeah, I mean they're very good, right? I guess they were built up over the years with various people doing NLP. I guess they recognize these principles, right?
I
So
assume that it's from the originators, John Grinder and the other dude.
yeah, it might be. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm assuming the same thing, but
Hmm.
um, but at any rate, yeah, they're good. They're very good rules for life kind of a thing.
Hmm.
Um, so the first one is have respect for the other person's model of the world, right? So maybe her internet just suddenly kicked out. Um, so that's an interesting phrase, the other person's model of the world, because the next one, which is the map is not the territory, that's a really fundamental principle. I'm going to stop sharing here. Um, so yeah, the idea that everybody has a model of the world or everybody has a map. Yeah. So what's
Sorry, I
that?
just went
Yeah. What's
to
that
go
book?
grab a book. So this is a book that I grabbed by Richard Bandler. So it's one of
Okay.
the guys that originated NLP. So very good.
Right. Yeah. 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 That's great. I mentioned last week a couple of books to Greg, and I think he bought them already. One is Frogs into Princes, and the other one I think is The Structure of Magic. Right? They're
there's
both.
actually two of these. I love it. Amazon is so
Yeah, part
available.
one and two. Yeah, yeah. So those three books are great. I think they're fundamental. It's sort of fundamental, but Anthony Robbins, when he started, he took one or two classes in NLP, and he said, "That's it. That's all I need. I'm going to go out and change the world." And of course, he did. So, in a lot of ways, you might think, "Oh, this is fundamental," but on the other hand, it might be all you need. You know, because they're so powerful, right? The whole idea of
I think if you were to take just one of them and actually use it and
yeah,
apply it to your life, you would see massive changes in your life. Now,
absolutely,
there's 16 of them, so just imagine.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um,
16
so
courses. What do you mean there's 16 of them?
These NLP presuppositions, there's
Oh,
16 of them.
yeah,
got it.
if you
Depending who you talk to,
if you look
13,
online,
16. Yep.
exactly. If you look online, one person's got a list of 12, another person's got a list of 13. But anyway, they're all good. So the first one is respect the other person's model of the world. Which is like meet them where they are, kind of a deal, right? And of course, the presupposition is everybody has a model of the world, and the other presupposition is everybody's model is different, which lots of times we forget. I mean, it's natural to assume that each person's model of the world is the same as yours, but of course it's not when you think about it. Um, because some people like dogs and other people don't like dogs, so they have a different model of the world, right?
Um, and the next one, the map is not the territory. That's a
Can I say
brilliant.
something really
Sure.
quickly about
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
this? When I like, so currently you and me and Greg, the three of us are in theory having the same experience, right?
Right.
But we're not, because our filter system of our brain is picking up things that we've deemed important as part of this conversation. So it's kind of the same idea as they say, like, if you're getting bad news from a doctor, bring somebody else with you, because the doctor's going to say a certain word and your brain is just going to, that's it. That's all you're going to hear.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas somebody else is going to be able to pick up everything else because they're there to learn everything, right? So that's just one of the ways that I like to explain it. It's like we each have these individual filter systems, and based on what we think is important, that's all we're listening for. You pick up things that you missed because you were so in the moment when we were talking that you missed out on other things. And so that's kind of
Right.
how I like to put that presupposition into real life.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. And so that's also the principle behind the law of attraction.
And RAS, yeah.
The RAS, the reticular activating system, which we've talked about several times, right? Because when you put, we can talk about Kathy using her gratitude journal, right? I mean, that's a great story that she told about using the gratitude journal for a month or so, and suddenly she was walking down the street one day, she noticed this bird and she felt grateful. And she realized, well, I've been seeing birds all my life and none of them ever made me feel grateful before. It's because the reticular activating system had sort of tied together the feeling of gratitude and her, going through this process of looking for things to feel grateful for. And, over a period of weeks, she started to spot things and started to appreciate them, right? So there's a good example of how her model of the world changed, right? And so that's the principle behind the law of attraction too. At least it's my principle of the law of attraction. Other people have a different idea. They think, well, the law of attraction is, you kind of pray for something and God gives it to you, right? But I don't have that. I don't have that model. Like the way I see it, literally the way I see it, right? There's an NLP idea. Is that I tell myself what to, I tell my brain what to notice, and then it starts to notice it. This is the whole principle behind the affirmation principle. I told that story, of that bus ride downtown. Suddenly I realized, whoa, that's a loving relationship. My relationship with that bus driver was a loving relationship, which before I never would have noticed. And if somebody had told me, oh, you want an example of a loving relationship? Just take a bus ride downtown. I'd have said, what? It doesn't make any sense, But it did make sense after it came from me, like after I sort of spontaneously came up with that new way of looking at things. Then it did make sense, right? So just those those first two ideas. One, everybody has a model of the world, and if you want to communicate with somebody, you need to understand and respect their particular model. And of course, the model has like an infinite number of parts. So, for example, if you say, I'd like to get another job. I'd like to change jobs. I'm kind of sick of my job, right? I'd like to change jobs, but it's so hard to find a new job. That's your model of the world. Why is it that you think finding a new job is hard? Why shouldn't it be, I'm looking forward to finding a new job, man. Looking for work is so much fun. What? Well, if you believed looking for work was so much fun, you'd enjoy looking for work, right? And, normally we don't think, we're not conscious, right? That we have these little things in our mind, blank is blank, looking for work is difficult. Looking for work is traumatic, being fired is bad. Well, that's a model of the world, right? It could be, oh, being fired is good. It's an opportunity. Yay, another opportunity. Maybe an opportunity that I didn't choose, but
What is it? Tony Robbins says, do you like surprises? And then people go, yeah, of course I like surprises. He goes, no, you don't. You only like the ones you like.
yeah, that's right. Well, one thing that he talks about, he talks about so many things, but one of the things he talks about is understanding what triggers your partner's feeling of being loved. He said if you don't understand it, and you can find out what it is just by asking questions, of course. But again, there's another skill, But
Doing
once
the
you,
love language quiz.
yeah, but once you understand, what triggers your partner's feeling of feeling loved, then you can trigger it and make them feel loved. But if you don't respect their model of the world, or if you don't appreciate the fact that they have a different model of the world, then you're naturally going to use your model of the world, which might be, if I spend money on them, they're going to feel loved. So you might, buy your significant other an expensive gift thinking they're going to really appreciate it and feel loved, and they might get angry. What are you wasting so much money for? What? Jess?
Can I share a really quick story on this and just how
Sure.
powerful it really is?
Yeah.
So I hope my mother never watches this video, but too much information. But never felt overly close with my mom my entire life up until recently. Last few years been getting better, but I had an epiphany where it occurred to me that my mom's love language is gifts. I have never in my life left her house without something, a bowl of soup, a muffin, beef. Like I got there before we were going on holidays and she went and gave me this gold bangle, right? Like this is how she shows love. And the minute I realized that, I went back, connected all the dots, and was filled with this overwhelming sense of love from my mom that I had never felt before.
Right.
Like this stuff is life-changing, powerful.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, what NLP is it's the study of the structure of thinking. Basically, that's what it is, right? And so that's the key to everything as far as I'm concerned. I mean, when I figured out that I was actually thinking something, which I didn't realize until I was in my late teens, I didn't really appreciate the fact that I was thinking. Because when you grow up, you don't really spontaneously realize that you're thinking these thoughts. You're just kind of trucking through life, going through doing what you do, following orders usually, your parents, your teachers, whatever, and not really realizing that, hey, I'm thinking about it this way, but if I think about it that way, it's different. Everything changes. Looking for a job is a creative adventure, as opposed to looking for a job as a grind. So that was a big insight for me that I'm still discovering, still exploring, right? So the idea that we have this subjective reality that we construct unconsciously, that's a huge insight. And in my model of the world, I'll take ownership of it. In my model of the world, the vast majority of people have no clue about this, or at least very little clue. And by vast majority, I mean in the 90s. 90% perhaps of people really have no idea, number one, that it's a fact that we each have this internal model of the world that we function in, but that it can be changed, and it can be changed in sometimes simple little ways, right?
And then take an even percentage of the percentage that actually apply it.
Yeah, exactly right. So Yeah, so those first two things, I mean, we could talk about those for, weeks probably, right? Just those two ideas. So, so maybe I can give you that as a bit of a task, like think about those two, because to me they're kind of related, right? Each of us has a model of the world, and we need to respect the other person's model of the world if we want to communicate with them.
Well, that leads to another presupposition, that is, communication is 100% the responsibility of the communicator. Those
That's
two work
true.
really
I
well
mean,
together.
that's true. They go together too, and also the idea that you're always communicating something. You can't not communicate. You can sit in the corner and don't move and don't make eye contact with anybody, and people are going to think, who's that jerk? So you're communicating, I'm a jerk, by doing that. But other people might think, ooh, that guy is probably really smart, Like, who was it that said, it's better to keep your mouth closed and have people think you're an idiot than start talking and remove all doubt? So, yeah. So, I think for us it would be fruitful to talk about those. So I think maybe I'll send you a message, like an email or something, and I'll say, think of some examples of these, because the more conscious we are of it, then the more valuable it is, right? For more information about this online community, to get your own copy of the book upon which this entire training series is based, either the ebook, the paperback, or the audiobook, go to mindtimeandpower.com, where you can also get a free copy of this Design Your Life workbook.